A quite quirky question was asked once on someone else, not me, and well, on a forum. And the question was something like, would you like to change any existing religion in a way, or to simply create a new one? And I thought, why not provide my own answer to it? See, I would wish to not change nor create any new religion. As of a personal standpoint, I do have my own cosmogony, I do have my own points of view, and well, I may say that they have been provided to me by quite some stable forces, but that's just some spiritual wandering. And what I want people to understand about spirituality is that I will always believe spirituality will provide you personal, let's say, custom tailored answers. Because many people might perceive the same thing about reality as is, beyond our senses, but in a slightly different way. Just like when we look at religion. Well, I'm not sure, nor can anyone be sure that creation is definitely a human being. Nobody will ever be able to perceive the fact that creation is necessarily a man, but in the end, it is the freedom of everyone to embrace that option as being a man, or, well, being a woman, or being multiple beings, or being animal shapes. Because when you look at all the beliefs in the world, they all have one common aspect. Every creation that they have, right? Or let's say the concept or concepts of creation that they have is something beyond us that has created everything that, well, is around us and including the possibility for us to exist. Whether that is a single entity or multiple entities, that is nothing else but a different way to view things. Throughout history, there have been numerous people who have agreed to changes and they have imposed their changes, or, well, they were accepted commonly by different communities, and that is why probably you ended up nowadays with so many multiple different versions of Christianity. I'm sure Judaism and Islam have their own things like this. Uh, I haven't read too much about them as well, but I heard there were multiple versions of the Quran throughout the history, and well, that some of them have been burned and well coalesced. Before that, they were coalesced into one single version. But history is kind of hoary, and we're not historians, so I cannot say that I truly believe in history the way it is told. Because the way you see nowadays history being rewritten right through in front of you, so that the future generations don't have any more stability left, any more understanding of the past, and only live by the past that is rewritten by some people to feed their egos, you can easily comprehend that this thing definitely happened to a certain extent to religions as well, to science, and to anything. Right now, when you look at the world, what do you see? Well, the majority of the things that are now in the world unfortunately have been coalesced, or well, let's say centralized into something. A centralization means there is a central governing force, or something that pulls the strings and decides anything that goes on and off. So when we look at things, well, healthcare is kind of a business, right? And well, even religion is more or less a business nowadays. Unfortunately, though, but everyone is still free to believe in whatever they wish. But unfortunately, a lot of things tend to become a business, especially when they are centralized. And once something becomes centralized, well, that is a problem. Because when something is centralized, the ignorance behind that centralization want power, they want dominion, they want control. What does that mean? That will become a business sooner or later. It will either become capitalistic or a form of capitalism, let's say, or a form of communism. They're not different one from the other, unfortunately, even if on paper they seem very different. But in the end, when you look at the world and how it functions, nowadays we have corporatism, which doesn't seem very different from communism. Everything is centralized, everything is controlled, everything is imposed by a central force, and anything else is simply shunned away, discarded, or, well, even demonized if it is so. Everything about your life is decided always by external factors. You're not allowed to say anything, you're not allowed to even think or function otherwise than it is imposed. This shows that society has reached the peak of its ignorance, out of which something will explode or implode, and well, when that happens, things will change drastically in that society, or that society will cease to exist. Similarly, if you create a new religion or a set of beliefs that will be, let's say, much purer than the Abrahamic religions, and not only those, but also many other of the, let's say, polytheist beliefs that there are in there, well, one may say that we have a big problem. You don't want to do such a creation in an ignorant world because obviously sooner or later there will be the people who will want to capitalize upon that and impose their power upon the followers. And sooner or later, a centralization of that creation of yours will happen. Maybe not in your country, maybe not in your own hometown, or, well, maybe not on a whole continent, but somewhere it will start. And that will be an example for others to follow in. Because a sick society has narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, and people who are just obsessing about power, control, and this and that. So sooner or later, any new creation that you create will be turned into a business sooner or later through centralization. And that will obviously invite more and more ignorance, and in the end, it will do nothing else than simply turn it into a business for some people to prosper and not for you. Yes, a sick society's purpose is to rid itself of you, sooner or later. But also, a sick society governed by these freaking minds obviously doesn't want to directly exterminate you. It wants you to suffer a bit and do some of their bidding, because in the end, in the eyes of ignorance, you are not worth anything. That is why the whole society has ended up in consumerism. Objects are, loved, and humans ended up being used. Even in the corporatist world, you are called a human resource, right? It's interesting that you're still called a human and not just a resource, but a human resource or a resource is still the same. This is the truth spoken in your face, right? Even when you speak about religions, unfortunately, having many of in many parts of the world, religion having become a business, obviously or nothing else but another resource that suits the necessity of the evil minds behind what once was a religion or a belief in something beyond us and, well, something that supposedly has created this whole cosmos. It is obvious that there is something that created the whole cosmos and allowed everything to exist, because in the end, we haven't created this cosmos. Yes, the point is, life is way broader than we may think. And even this planet, scientifically, we know very little about it because we are not allowed to do that. Because a sick society will always invent newer and newer minorities or new reasons to create and classify people as minorities. And the minorities will always be turned against the majority because that is what a sick society needs in order to topple the current morality, the current moral values and virtues of a society and impose its own. This is how also communism functions. Minorities are given rights to rule and oppress the majority, and mass genocide the majority, just like you have seen in the Red Plague of the Soviet era, when, some people took control over the Soviet Union and led to the genocide of 66 million Russian people. Obviously, Russia may be still demonized nowadays, but it is up to you to make use of your discernment the way you should, not the way someone feeds you emotionally. Because nowadays, whatever anyone has done, if we look at the entire history of the world, there are two sides, those who have dominated and those who have been stepped on. And sooner or later, if more or less, if we look at most of the nations of the world, their ancestors obviously have done misdeeds as well, not just good deeds. And, well, this can derail further and further, but the point is, any new religion or changes in religion will act as nothing else than a means to allow that to happen even more. Just like you have too many freedoms nowadays and ignorance that simply are incapable of figuring out those freedoms. and also the fact that those freedoms were never important. Those freedoms were given to you only because some people wanted you to keep you trapped. The point of ignorance nowadays is that it is a very good jail. It is a very good prison of the mind. It's always been so. But nowadays, you have so many media to keep you distracted, to keep you stuck in your own mind. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated. Take care. Enjoy life. And this being said, Ferinjan Board signing out.